Welcome to the Farming on Purpose podcast, a podcast for farmers and ranchers ready to shift for a stronger future. Today's challenges in agriculture are new, but the grit and determination required to be successful are not. On the Farming on Purpose podcast, you'll hear how producers of all sizes and practices are moving mountains for things they believe in, all in the name of an industry that keeps growing and innovating for a stronger food system and stronger farm families. I'm your host, Lexi Wright, and I'm excited to discuss where producers are finding success, challenging the status quo, striving for better, and keeping our heritage alive, all while producing the food we depend on. Welcome back to Farming on Purpose. Today I'm here with Kaitlyn Keller. Kaitlyn grew up on a dairy and beef cattle operation in Arkansas and has always had a passion for animal health. And she's in the industry, been in the industry most of your life, right? Managing a large cow-calf operation, her own cattle, showing cattle, and then also in equine reproduction, which kind of led you to what you do now. You have two girls, one in college and then a 7-year-old, and you guys live on the edge of the Flint Hills and raise gelbvieh cattle. So that's kind of the brief overview picture for everybody of where you're at, what you do. Tell us more about the backstory of that, of what that all looked like and how you got where you're at now.
Growing up, I was on my grandparents owned a dairy and I did that. And then I always, had a fascination with, veterinary service and animal health. So all through high school, I worked for the local vet clinic, which is how I got into the equine reproduction side of things. And then, it always stuck with that. And then later on, I actually managed a 3,500 head cow-calf operation in Missouri with a 1-year-old. So a lot of that. And I've just always dealt with cattlemen, farmers, the horse industry. So all that kind of then led me to Kansas, where I currently live in the Flint Hills and was dealing with cattle and dealing with agriculture as far as, the farming side with corn, beans, wheat, all of that. And then I had the opportunity to manage a racehorse stallion named Racy Casanova and stood him in Iowa for his owners. And after getting to know his owners, they actually own an animal health company. So I was introduced into that and asked to start my own company. And I did. And that was 7 years ago. We're on our 8th year and started very, very small. And I had guys that I had worked with and hauled cattle with and helped them work cattle, just kind of day work stuff. And by just word of mouth, it built into what KSX is today. So as you can see, I'm constantly with dogs. I'm still hauling cattle because it makes me happy. It's just my passion for what I get to do. And I love the industry.
Sounds like you have a great breadth of experience there and have experienced a lot of different corners of the ag industry. Tell us a little bit more about what KSX is and what that journey has been like.
So KSX I do an all natural animal health. So I had always dealt with, a lot of cow-calf operations, and there were, things I saw, like as far as your scours problems, milk replacers that were incredibly expensive. They were soy-based. I completely believe in antibiotics, but there is a whole lot that we can do as far as the all-natural side of things for gut health, which you don't have to use them in some situations. And so that's when we went to work on the research side of products. And the all-natural sector is a very big sector. So we just develop things that can save cattlemen money and are all natural. Anyone can use them. My favorite thing is consulting. My favorite thing is taking phone calls and talking to people on whether they have one bottle calf or whether they have, 10,000 head of cows. Like, that is my favorite to, there's no wrong answer. If you have people call and say a lot of the things you have with young farmers or people that have never done this coming in, well, why do you do this? Well, this is the way we did it. Like, this is how Dad did it. This is how Grandpa did it. And so with that, I'm able to learn a lot about different things in the enterprise operation, but I'm also able to say, well, what about we look at this and try this and teach people all the little things I have phone calls from, my cow calved and now what do I do? All the way up to, gains and productivity and sustainability in beef.
It's such an interesting time in the industry right now, I think, because people like never before are looking for other options and other solutions in animal nutrition and animal health. Because like you said, a lot of folks, they just haven't been exposed to any other ways of doing it other than what they grew up with or what they were taught, especially if they didn't, continue their education or have some of those additional exposure to animal health. And now with social media, we're seeing all the different ways that people do things. And that's how I came across you originally, was I saw one of your products on TikTok that a different farmer was using. And was like, what is this? I have to learn more about what's going on here. So I love that people are branching out and saying, we don't have to do just exactly the same thing that we've always done. There could be better alternatives if we just give them a try. And there's a lot of different ways of managing things. So I'm excited to talk more about the nutrition side with you and hear more about what that process has been like, what kind of things you typically run into. So let's say that you are on the phone. You said you really enjoy to do the consulting part. So let's say you're on the phone with somebody who has a small herd, maybe 30 to 40 mama cows, and they're looking for how to best support those calves that are born, let's say spring, since we're just past that spring calving.
Right. So, you have a lot. Weather dictates so much with what's going on. So, a lot of people are like, "Oh, it's freezing." Freezing isn't great. It is not great. But for my side of things, a cold, dry winter and spring is what you want. Because of bacteria. So bacteria thrives in a warm, wet environment. We have these cycles with our weather patterns. So a few years ago, we had a warm, wet spring. And I was pretty lucky because that was the first years of my business. And I had some great guys that gave me a lot of reviews. So when you deal with that, you have calves. Yeah, it's best to calve on green pasture, but that's not always the case. So what you look for is, you want your cows to be pretty good body condition. You want a good mineral program. You want, to have your vaccinations up to date. But when you get into this situation, you'll have the calves that either up north with my clients in the northern states where you have a big blizzard come in. So they're either able to yank into barns or they are able to get them in a truck, warm them up, give them something to get them going. And the goal is to get them back on mama. A lot of things people don't understand with a bacterial cycle is like in the equine industry, we see foal scours. That's actually a 7-day period that bacteria has had to build up in the calf system and then cause a problem. With calves, we deal with a few more different viruses because of how cattle are managed and different bacteria. But you go into the bacteria builds up. It's in your ground. There's nothing you can do about that. No amount of any product is going to get that bacteria out of the ground. So that's kind of where we come in with antibodies and get those into those calves right away so they can go to work and they can prevent these outbreaks of what's going on. Because, one calf gets it, then the next one gets it, and then you have a huge problem. So the trick with antibodies and antibiotics that a lot of people don't realize is antibiotics kill the good and the bad. They're a great thing if you have an animal with a fever, but there was a lot of belief previously that, oh, it's not feeling good, we're just going to give it a shot of antibiotics. If it has a fever, if it is clinically sick, that is fantastic. If it's just a little off, a little weak, but it doesn't have a fever, that system isn't completely attacked yet, you can take antibodies to fight that bacteria off or that virus off. You can also, I guess I'm kind of going to ramble a minute, but all of the KSX antibodies, there's a thing called microencapsulation. So you want to think about an M&M, and it melts in your mouth, not in your hand. So we use microencapsulation. All of these antibodies are wrapped in this little shell. And so is our yeast, which cannot be killed by bacteria. So are our different, bacilluses and probiotics and prebiotics and dead prebiotics, live prebiotics. But by microencapsulating, you have a sick calf and you go out and it needs antibiotics. You give it antibiotics. You're doing the right thing. However, you want to reintroduce a probiotic, prebiotic antibodies that are protected from that antibiotic killing them. So with the microencapsulation, you're going to give this calf whatever drug your veterinarian or that works for what you're dealing with. And then by the time these antibodies, the acids of the gut break these antibodies open, the antibiotics have already been attached, gone into the bloodstream. They're doing their thing. These break open, it gives you a whole new gut flora. So you don't get secondary infections, which people will see because you've knocked that immune system. And then you've also knocked the good bacteria, and then they just get sick again. And it's a cycle. So you're able to break the secondary infection cycle. And you also are able to support that animal the same as we do a human, the same as you and me. We go to the doctor. If you have to take a large amount of antibiotics, your stomach gets upset. You don't feel good. You don't want to eat. And all of that in cattle is detrimental that we don't want to happen. We want them to eat as much as possible and be as healthy as possible for the end goal of gain and healthy cattle. If that makes sense.
It does. Yeah. So many thoughts came up while you were kind of explaining that. And the first one is that, antibiotics have kind of been this like solve all problems tool that we've used. But really, that's not how they work. It's kind of like hitting a screw with a hammer. It's just
sometimes. Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And of course they have their place and they can solve problems for you, but they can't solve all problems. And so what these products is another tool to approach this problem differently. And I love what you said there about breaking the cycle, because a lot of times when we have those sick calves, we're like, oh, well, this one's always going to be a problem, and because they continue to have those problems because of the way we treat them. So breaking that cycle completely can change the future for that calf if we're able to treat it and actually get it on the right path. So tell us a little bit more. You talked a little bit about the microencapsulation of these antibodies in your products. What kind of process goes into developing these products, and what's that look like?
It's a whole lot of testing. So actually where a lot of antibodies, you can get all different kinds, but where quite a few, you have lab grown antibodies, which, they're found and they come in and they take them and they, say, okay, we're going to build this up. And then you have bovine origin antibodies, where they actually, at a lot of universities, they go in and they pull antibodies out of the animal's rumen. They pull rumen, what's in the rumen, and they take it and we break it down and we put it under a microscope and we find that antibody. So we're able to use actually bovine origin instead of lab grown. But so when we start developing something, we'll say, I have a customer that is having a lot of, coccidiosis is a major problem. Clostridia is a major problem. So I'm going to take antibodies to that I know are able to help get ahead of that. They're going to start combating that. They're going to get into the system and they're going to start building and knocking out the bad bacteria. But with that, you also get into different all natural products such as tannins. So a lot of companies use essential oils. That's kind of a new thing that people are doing. Just these products that we know about, but people don't think about putting into something. And we mix it up and we are able to count antibodies microscopically. So you know what you have is called a titer level. So you could test the blood and say, okay, we have the right level of antibodies in this bloodstream and in this digestive tract. And we mix it up and kind of, we have like tests. We do trials, essentially. We have farms that we work with that say, hey, I'm having this go on. So we develop a product, we take it to them, we start putting it in their calves on like a split herd, like 50% we do this, 50% we do that. And we just talk to them a lot, say, okay, is this working? Yep, it's working great. Okay, yep, this is working, but I'm still seeing this later on, or I'm seeing this not as good. And we just start trialing back and forth with cattlemen, whether it be dairy or the beef industry, and just kind of go to work. It's a lot of fun. It's research and development is an absolute blast. Like that's one of my favorite things is getting a customer. I had a gentleman in South Dakota this year call me and say, oh, I'm getting this on these calves, but it's not bacterial, it's nutritional. And I'm like, that's interesting, so I'm able to go to work and say, okay, I don't need to give you a bunch of antibodies. I need to give you products that you can give these calves that will fight a nutritional scour. Because like his cows are on, they're grazing alfalfa, they're grazing clover, and they are just milk factories. So these calves are they're just fat and healthy, but there's so much going into their system that, that's such high protein. It's like you and me drinking only protein shakes for all day long for about a weekend. By Monday, it is not going to be the most pleasant thing, So you kind of apply it in that sense.
Okay. So before we get any deeper into that conversation, because I'm really excited to just learn more about what that looks like for you guys. That's what gets me so interested. But before we get to that point, I want to back up just a second so people can kind of understand how you work with folks, and if they were to like reach out to you or want to be able to find the products that you guys offer, how do they go about that? Do they have to be in a certain area? What makes sense for them?
So I ship nationwide. I ship all over the country. So you can go to my website, which is KSXperformance.com. My phone number is listed everywhere. So their TikTok, I talk to people on all different platforms all the time. Excuse the goofy TikTok videos because it's not always about business. But they can, do that. And then, pretty much 90% of the time I'm in a tractor. So, or I'm hauling cows. So they can, just call and say, this is what I have. This is my issues I'm seeing. Over the years, I have a veterinarian that actually will consult for me and help me, when I am like stumped. I'm like, okay, this is what's going on, because our large animal vets are becoming very hard to get. So you have a lot of small animal vets, but the large animal practice, especially cattle, there's not a lot coming out of vet school and going into that practice. So you may be, I talk to people that they don't have a large animal vet within 100 miles of them. So they have to pay the vet to come in. But in this situation that they can't find, they're not getting the answer they want. They're still having issues. They're still having issues. I just start pulling data. I'm like, okay, what age range is this calf? What does it look like? What do you see? Send me pictures. Are you having necropsies done? Have you had fecal samples done? What products are you using? What products are you not using? What's your mineral program? We just dive super deep into everything about their operation. And it could, in some cases, be as simple as a protocol change. Are you checking your sick pin first? and then your healthy calves. Because even though you're in a pasture, you're swapping. I had one situation with a customer a few years back, and he's like, well, I'm checking my sick pen first because these are expensive cows and they're sick. When it can be as simple as a protocol change. So, on how you're checking your animals, he was going to a sick pen first, and then he was going over and like, okay, those are fine, or I'm treating, and then I'm going to check on my healthy ones because obviously they don't need as much care. But when you're doing that, you are, cross-contamination is a huge issue that people really have to address and pay attention to. It's something as simple as changing your boots, changing your hoodie if you've handled calves, changing your pants, pulling a pair of coveralls on over can make a huge difference. And that's honestly, we just go into everything from the ground up when we deal with those situations. And then he gets me all the data. I call... I make some phone calls to the guys that help me develop all of this. And I'm like, okay, this is what I got. What do you got? You got something I don't know about? We have anything that we can do with this. And I call, the veterinarian that'll consult for me, or the veterinarian that they're working with in the area, and say, hey, show me what you got. What do you got here? This is what I've got. And we kind of just put a plan together and work with them, whether it's a protocol on how they check cattle, whether it is add this vitamin, whether it is, okay, when you're seeing this first sign, do this, or give this about the day range, this is showing up. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that comes into play, but it doesn't matter how small or large the operation is. It's because you're always learning something about that.
Yeah, absolutely. So you work with folks nationwide. They can call you. Just to get real specific here. So do they keep you on as like a retainer to be able to call you with their questions, or how does that work?
No, that is absolutely free. I basically, I have customers that call me, I know when their kids are graduating. They call and say, I'm having this go on this year, and we talk about it, figure it out. There's no consulting fees or anything like that. Like, I truly just enjoy helping people. And, in turn, they tend to use products I have. And one of the things is, if I don't have something that's going to help you, I'm going to tell you I got nothing, but I know about this, and this that I think will fix the situation. And, that's where those personal relationships to me mean a lot. And, all my customers end up kind of being my buddies. I mean, they're calling and texting, and we, hey, I'm calf doing this. You seen this before? And I'm like, oh, hey, I have seen that. Like, try this, so it just gives you a lot of knowledge. And I think, by me being a small company, it gives you some trust that I'm not trying to just sell stuff to people. I want to truly help the overall agriculture community to learn, for us to do better, for us to have great information out to the public, that we are here to feed you and help you. We are not here to do any of the things that things say we do. So.
Yes. And we need more people to understand that. Unfortunately, it seems that we're fighting a $1 billion media campaigns there, but got to keep going. Okay. So that's really helpful to know. That's how you kind of work with operations. That's how that works. Let's dive in more to these products. So are these newly developed? How long have these been out there available for folks?
I'm so glad you could join us today. You can support the mission of the Farming on Purpose podcast and be part of the tribe dedicated to building ag legacies at farmingonpurpose.com/shop. You'll find apparel, office supplies, stickers, planners, and more, all inspired by the people living out ag legacies every day.
So I actually do the products that how would you put it? This technology has been around for years. The products, like the recipes I use and the things I do, were actually developed over 20 years ago. We use them, it's not just my little company. The same things are being used, or the same thing is being used on giant calf ranches. So it's it's not new technology, but we have kind of a specialized niche in it. And I am blessed enough that I work with the man that developed it all. So it is one of those things that it's been around. It's not in a retail market. It's never been in a retail market. So that is where I kind of came into the situation. Is I took it from a giant 35,000 head dairies and giant customers, and I pulled it over the retail side for the smaller customers. And some of them aren't small, but when you're talking 3,500 dairy cows, it seems small. So
yeah. So when this was developed, was this kind of like created to solve a need or something that they just always done? Tell me more about the origination.
No, it was created to solve a need. It was created when you get into microbiology, you get into toxicology, and then you see the way antibodies can actually work. So it was created basically to say, hey, kind of like the drugs are working on this, but then you're getting this. So to support that need and get the animals, just better, just healthier with, even if you're using antibiotics. And then that carried on, there's a lot going on right now with organic, all natural, all of those. So that just kind of increased the need even more to get the information out because people have got much more conscious of what's in their food supply. And that's a good thing. Like, that's an awesome thing that people have became conscious about. Like, it's not just a beef at Walmart. It is like, what are these fed? How are they taken care of? Like, there's just a whole movement going on, I think, with the public as far as, I want to know what the steak ate for the last 18 months before I'm eating it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, a lot more of that happening, which I'm glad you said it was good, because I think a lot of times in ag, we can get like defensive about that. And like, it's hard when they are questioning things or maybe even calling out certain practices to realize that, no, we want them to ask those questions. That's yes for us. Yeah. Okay. So it was created to solve a need. And then you are taking it and making it available to smaller operations. Tell me more about the line of products, because it's not just like one thing, it's a whole bunch of solutions. So what all is offered, and where do you typically start with that?
So I am a cow calf addict. I love the cow calf side of operations. I love calving heifers, which most people think I'm crazy for loving to calve heifers, because you ever calved heifers, it's like hurting teenage girls on cocaine with babies. It's horrible. That's
like the quote we're pulling out. That one right there.
It is like, are you kidding me? So it is. You have stuff from your calves. So you have colostrum, which is the number one thing you must make these sure any baby animal gets is colostrum. That is your go-to. They are born with no immune system. We got to make sure they get it, whether it's from mama, whether it is you're giving it to them and trying to get them back on mama, whether it's a bottle calf, they have to have it to survive. Then you go into like the paste products, which like the calf proof paste, which is your, we know that calf is sucked. We know that calf's mama loves it, but we know we have bacteria on our ground, and every year we're going to have a case of scours or something like that go on. So we take the paste product, which gives them an energy source. So in cold calves, wet calves, muddy calves, bad conditions, that is a huge come into play. Or if it's like a preemie calf, or it's just a little kind of a dumb baby bull calf, they tend to be a little lazy. So we're giving it that. So we're going to perk that calf up and we're going to get it going. Then you're giving them additional antibody support. So you're giving them 7 different kinds of antibodies just to make sure that we are making sure that system is set and they start building an immune system. And then there's like the prebiotics and the probiotics, which start to kind of get there abomasum, which is where all the milk is actually going on a newborn calf. It's not going, that's the first little part of the gut, and that's where it's going. So it's not going into a rumen. So that's not developed yet. So we're getting that into that abomasum so it can begin developing. And the milk the calf is taking in, which is your proteins and your fats, is able to digest those. Then we have some all natural things in there that if that calf is getting a toxin, it grabs that toxin, helps to get it out of the system. And just some things that support, like, so they're not an antibody, but they are a product that is effective against crypto and coccidiosis, for example. Then you get into electrolytes. So electrolytes are, there's a lot of different ones out there. Mine is unique as far as it is a no bicarb in one of them, and it has no sugars in it. So I'm not feeding bacteria. I'm simply taking a little scoop. It's a low feeding rate, and I'm hydrating the calf. I'm giving it what it needs on a calf that's sick or a calf that has got heat stress or is weak for some reason, and making sure it's properly hydrated. But I also have probiotics in it. So I'm hydrating it and I'm giving it, it's got what it needs to recover. We do have products for cows. When you get a dairy, like fresh cows, then I have products that people use on show calves, or a cow that's been sick, a cow's been in her treatment. She, was down for some reason and she's off her feed. We have things we can put into their digestive system that is like, I want to drink water and eat. And if you can make a cow drink, you can make them do anything. Then I have several new products that I came out with. I actually finished some of them up last week. And one of those is a product called Boost. So you have a healthy calf over here and he's fine. But when you're going out and tagging or you're doing something, we want to make sure that, he's just getting a really good start to life. So it's actually a 5 cc's you shoot in their mouth that is so small. It is instantly absorbed into the bloodstream, and it gives them, like, you can watch a calf wake up. It's like giving them caffeine, but it is all natural. It's just a big vitamin boost. And then we have some other stuff when you get into incoming cattle on feedlots. Same thing, but it's got a bacillus in it, a yeast that when you're shipping in cattle on a truck that have been pulled off grass, we're putting them in onto full feed. So when you do that, if their digestive system's not ready, they can actually bloat, they get sick, they don't feel good, they don't want to eat. So we put things in them to precondition their digestive system to be able to take off and handle that ration change. So I have a whole bunch of different, it's always something new.
Yeah, definitely. Now, these ones that you said you just finished up last week, are those available? Like, how long does that typically take for testing and turnaround on that kind of stuff?
So those had been, we've been working on those for several months in the background and testing them with feedlot calves, some little Jersey dairy calves. We've been using it on those and saw great results. So we did all that. We got all that done and said, okay, these are going to work. These are working. This is going to be a good deal. And then we moved it. So I got the labels done this week. I have product coming in this week. So it is, it'll be available. It should be on the website next week. Hopefully, it's one of those we say, okay, we're doing this. And then it's like this, oh crap, we got to get everything all put together as far as labels, which is the whole other side of owning a small business. It's like, oh my God, you have to do, we do a lot of pricing. We have to figure out just all the things. Like it's goes nuts. So when that happens, it should be available next week. So awesome. It should be, I would say, yeah.
Okay. Well, I want to make sure I circle back to that part of the whole other part of being a small business owner. But I want to make sure we hit a little bit more on those products. So we've talked a lot about cow calf and using them for cows. Are these usable on other livestock?
Yes. So everything in KSX is usable on other livestock. So there is actually a kid proof, which is for goats. And then there is a foal proof, which is actually one of the first products I did whenever I got asked to do this, because I did the equine repro side, and I dealt with a lot of foals, and I was like, I have had this issue and I'm so sick of it. And so that's when Foolproof was my first product. So horses, sheep, people use it on their dogs. We are, it's any species, all of my stuff is safe for.
Okay. Perfect. That's great. I know a lot of folks that listen have goats and sheep, and so gotta make sure it's good for everybody. Okay.
Oh, yeah, it is. Yep.
Awesome. So the big question that I know everybody's thinking is dollars and cents. Mostly our goals usually with running livestock is reduce those inputs, because we want to make sure we're getting the maximum rate of gain that we can. We want to maximize those profits at the end. So if we're putting some of these extra products into our animals, what kind of things is it creating for us down the road to capture more of that profit?
So one of the things with like the calf paste, for example, my goal is to reduce your sickness rate. So your, with that, it depends on, what tube you're using, how much you're using, because like with any business, there's volume discounts, they're available. But it, we're going to say if you can put $3 in, and this is a random number, this is not the number, but you can put $3 in, and you're not having to doctor that calf with Draxxin, which is an expensive drug, man hours, time, you're going to catch it. That is the goal, is for me to keep your stuff from getting sick. And so, yes, it may cost $3 up front, but you just saved, $50 a week from now, or you just saved $1,000 at the end because you have lost bottle calves were insane this year, but you go right now and sell a 700-pound calf, you're looking at a $1,400 paycheck. So that is the whole goal. Where I have, I kind of love doing it, kind of maybe, not the thing. I love being the little guy because I have no overhead. There is me, and my mom does my office work, so here that's it, and I think I don't have to pay her. So, she just gets free products and I have to go work with cows for her. So, there's no overhead as far as, I'm not paying a major corporation. It's the simple cost. And so far, that is one of the reasons I've had, some people that have always used, other products say, well, why is this so cheap? And I'm like, it's just me. I'm the one, so it keeps my overhead low, and saves them money. So a lot of times, like using my products versus, a larger companies it's half the cost. And I kind of try to keep my packaging as simple as I can so I can save them money ahead of time, and keep those costs low, because operating an operation and knowing the bookwork of that, it's painful. To some of the stuff, sick animals cost you a lot of money, so keeping them healthy is the whole goal. We're going to start healthy, we're going to stay healthy. On one of the new products, which is the Boost Plus, the competing product to that, the cheapest I know of, that you can purchase it for, on a cow dose, which is 40 milligrams, it is costing the veterinarian, their cost is about $6.78 per dose. That is per cow, per dose. And it is not a shelf-stable product. So any you don't use out of this bag you've had to mix, you got to throw away. You're done. Where the Boost Plus that I will have out next week it's shelf stable. It is less than half the price of that $6 product, and it's alive. It's not a dead, and it's got all this more stuff in it. So I think that's where I get really excited, is I can come up with things and develop things that are cheaper. They're complete. They're like, there's everything in one little package versus giving 4 things. And then they work. So in the end, it saves everybody money down the line.
Absolutely. I love the innovation side of this and giving people more options, more tools that they have access to, and developing products that aren't available. Like, that's just incredible that you're giving people these opportunities to use those things. Not to mention, you mentioned like the cost of Draxxin, availability of Draxxin also, and some of those things that are becoming more regulated. Like, if you don't have it when you need it, you're going to have some problems. So that's an additional thing to consider.
That's a hard thing because the regulations that came down, like with the calf boluses, for example, people have used those for years. You could buy them in the feed store, and then all of a sudden you can't get them anymore. Were they a great solution? They worked. I think they worked. I think you needed, kind of like I said before, some supplementation after that because it was a sulfa product, but they worked. And now you can't get them. So everybody's like, oh, crap, what do I do now? And that's where, being in the supplement side of things, we can bring things in that can help them and get them started again without having to have a vet fee.
Yeah. Absolutely. Well, if somebody was going to go to your website, we'll put the link in the show notes. If they're going to go there, and obviously we want them to call you and learn more about what kind of answers you could have for them. But if they wanted to just go check out your website and give something a try, what do you recommend they start with?
If you are dealing with calves, absolutely the calf proof. If you are dealing with, you're going to have some baby calves. Once you try the first feeding, it is the most easy to mix. If you've ever mixed colostrum before, it's awful. It is thick. It is goopy. It is a disaster. You got a whisk. I knew a lot of guys that are in a lot of trouble because they steal their wife's KitchenAid, and all these things to mix this. That would be a number one product that people love. The calf proof is the other thing. I mean, you can use that on your dog if you need to. But it solves a lot of issues, whether you have a calf that got a respiratory, so you have to treat that calf. Give it some calf proof, because you won't have the after effect of digestive upset. It's a very versatile product. That, and it's, a lot of doses in one deal. The electrolytes, what a lot of people don't realize, I have to call a lot of people when they order those. The little bags, there's 10 feedings of electrolytes in that bag. Or they're like, oh, they bought, normally a bag of electrolytes is $20. Well, I have 10 feedings for $20, so they order like 10 bags. And I'm like, are you sure you did this? If you need that many, we got buckets, so, but those would be like the top 3 that are probably used. I would love it if people want to try the Boost Plus or the Boost for your newborn calves. Since it's new, I think it's probably one of the most exciting products I've got to come out with for a long time because of its ease of use. So, that's the other ones probably to give it a try. So, and if you're into goats, the kid proof. So, but yeah, and there's my emails on there also. I can email, text, they don't have to call unless they just want to. That turns into a whole big conversation about what the weather is, and which I'm fine with, because half the time, I've made some of my best friends, my customers that have called and said, hey, I have a question. And then we start talking, and I've ended up almost related a couple times. So it's whichever people would like to do.
Well, perfect. This is not me being a sales pitch for you, but I'm going to speak to the people listening right now. If you want to try these products and see if they work for you, the time to get them is before you have the calf, because you can't give it a try when you need it if you don't have it. So consider, as you put your calving box together or whatever that looks like for you for your next season, put some of these in there so you have them ready to try. To be able to give them a test. Okay. So I love learning more about the history of these products. I think I could probably ask you 100 questions, but I want to also make sure that we get to the side of being a small business owner. You wear a lot of different hats. What's a typical day look like for you, and how are you fitting all of this product development and sales and consulting in? So I
work for a county actually running heavy equipment. When I was hired there, I knew the people there, because it's from my county. And I said, here's the condition. Like, I have to be able to be on my phone. And they were like, well, Katie, you talk all the time. We know that. I'm like, no, like, I have to be on my phone. So, there is no set business hours. It gets really crazy, especially during calving season. So with the small business side, at first I literally had Square or PayPal, and I'm like, okay, here's this. And they would, they'd send me money that way or a check. Then I did all this with zero debt. So my mom said she wanted to do it, which is great because she's an accountant and I am not, and I hate numbers. So she took on that side. And then I had a friend who built my website. Actually used to go feed calves at her grandpa's dairy. So she built my website, and they would order and I'd get an email, and then I'd have to build an invoice and I'd send it back, and it was a mess. And then we grew a little more, and the website became what it is today. I have people call me all the time. I've had 2 phone calls since I was on the phone with you, so it's one of those things there are no off hours. I may be at the lake and say, hey, what's up? Try to talk to people. I think the only time I have been unavailable in 7 years of business was when I took my mom and stepdad and we went to Idaho and fished for a week. Because I had no cell phone reception, and I tried to pre-warn all my customers and put out notices. Because I was like, I cannot answer, like, I'm out. And it's tough, as a small business owner. There was a saying the other day that to be an entrepreneur or a small business owner, you must thrive. Oh, I think I added the thrive, but you must be able to thrive in a constant condition of chaos. Because I am taking phone calls as I'm walking into my daughter's dance deal. My 7-year-old is very used to being like, mom. And I'm like, but it's absolutely the most enjoyment for someone that enjoys helping people. Completely go after your small business dreams. If you think I have an idea and I want to do this, chase it. Like, chase it in all your spare time with whatever you can do and do what works. I took a lot of time building mine. It was this, and then it grew a little bit. I'm like, okay, and then you have like a really crazy busy season, and then you just don't do anything with it for months, and you have life that goes on. But it's absolutely chase your dreams. And whether it is you want to go out and buy your first, 5 cows, figure it out, have a plan, we love helping you. I love helping people. And a lot of my farmers that I know, we love helping people. The little grouchy old man you bring up, hey, I was thinking about buying cows. He may become your best friend, so ask a lot of questions and, time it out and jump in, and it may work. You're going to work and you're going to fail. And, you're going to go, oh my God, what have I done a couple times? You're going to make mistakes, but it's the best. It's the best thing ever. Like, I truly love what I was given the opportunity to do.
I agree completely with that. And I'm so glad that you have found something that is lighting you up and allowing you to just work with the kind of people that you love. That's the best part of business, is doing something you love with other people who love it too. So I'm so glad that you found that. So as you kind of navigate the growth of this company, you said, it's grown a little bit. Life has happened, as it does for all small business owners. What's the next stage? What does the future look like for you?
My hope is that, obviously it continues to grow. And instead of being in a tractor, talking on the phone, I can, be out more, visiting with customers, talking on the phone, or, talking to them in person or visiting their operations, because that's where you learn a lot. So, I hope that is the case. I've had a couple retail opportunities come up. My products now are in several vet clinics that are great vets that I get to work with, and they've been with me for 4 or 5 years. So I've got them, and but it's nice to be able to go around and visit with them. So, but the hope is I would get more retailers or hopefully some really good distributors. I've been really lucky. I've had a couple of those, say we want to carry your products, and that our people are truly passionate about it and they want to educate, which I think is a big part of. Well, if you put a product in a feed store, there's really no education. It's just on a shelf, where I really enjoy the education side, and the people where it's a one-on-one relationship. So that's hopefully where the growth goes. I would like to have it in some stores, obviously. But getting to just expand more, I'd say, like, where I can go visit with people, or I have more phone calls where I can, train dogs and send in my own tractor and take those phone calls and enjoy talking to people, I think is my hope for the future. So.
Yeah, it's always the goal, right? Being your own tractor versus somebody else's.
Yeah. And versus the 7 to 5:30 tractor, and then come home and get my own tractor. That would kind of allow me to expand my cattle stuff a little bit more, and just do some different things.
Absolutely. Do you think as you grow and expand, has it been a lot about education and making sure people understand these products, or networking, or a combination of both?
I think it's a lot of networking. Once you talk to people in actual terms and explain, like, this is why I do what I do, or this is why it does what it does. I actually have a nursing background. So that runs heavy equipment, not many people understand that, but you can tie all this into how you and my body work. So when, you kind of are able to do that, they understand it. And then it's my, whole, I would say 90% of my business has just been people telling people. It has been because they're like, she has a good product and she'll answer your question. She's honest. If she doesn't have the answer, she'll get it. And it's just been that networking farther out. And that's what, I think makes a difference as a small business owner, is everything's on your reputation.
Yeah, definitely. Well, the last question I have for you then, before we kind of wrap up today, I want to make sure you get to be at the sale barn and do the things you need to do there. But, as this company grows, and, I just stumbled across your product on TikTok, is that something that you have prepared for, the potential that, you have a video that millions of people see, and oh my gosh, now I have 100 orders, and how does manufacturing, keep up with that? How's that happened, or have you had any issues like that?
Oh, that's happened. Happened. I think the first TikTok video I had go viral, I was actually in a snowplow, pushing snow, and a guy calls me from Nebraska, and hey, I was calling about your colostrum, and I'm like, oh, okay, where you at? Oh, he tells me, and I'm like, I must have talked to so-and-so down the road. About 30 minutes later, another guy calls. I'm like, boy, Nebraska's busy today. Like, what's going on, And then the third person calls and says, hey, I saw your video on TikTok. And I'm like, oh, God, no, because not really no, but I'm like, oh, God, I'm in trouble. I had made that video 2 weeks before, and it finally got around. The guy that was my foreman at the time jumps in and he starts driving because I'm on headphones, and he's like, just go talk about colostrum, ride the passenger seat. It was my email. All my orders started going to spam. Like, I had orders in spam because my computer thought I'd been hacked. I had all these orders. I was like, oh, God, so thankfully at that time we did have a computer system set up where we could track them all and print them off, and it was generating invoices into QuickBooks. But it was straight up insanity. So with that, I always have 99% of the time I have product on hand. I order it in by the pallet pre-calving season because I know when that season's going to hit. Every once in a while, it goes so crazy that I am calling the plant saying, I need it more and I need it now, because And usually, like, I see how fast stuff's flowing and I know my inventory, so it's not bad. Sometimes we get about a 2-day delay. Like, I'm waiting on a pallet to get there so I can ship a pallet back out. On big orders, I ship it directly from the plant, so that saves me some time. And it saves me, like postage and just small things. But it's happened, and every year we just get farther. We're like, okay, we look at our back sales, we look at our different projections, and I'm like, okay, I know this guy has told me he's told 5 of his friends, and all those friends have messaged me saying they're going to want it for calving season. And they said, well, I calve 300 head of heifers. I'm like, okay, you're going to need a lot, so, so far, it has not been ever a complete disaster. There's about a 24 to 48 hour panic where you're like, I can't, what am I going? You're just mass writing out postage labels, and my back of my truck's completely packed, and my mom lives south of me 3 hours, and she's coming up because she's out of product, and I'm meeting the FedEx guy in the middle of the day and taking off work, and but we have them. But yeah, so it goes back to your, if you think you're going to use it, pre-order it. I try to make some videos and hints and stuff that say calving season is here in a month. Or my customers I've had a long time, I try to text them about December, January and say, hey, are you ordering? Like, you think you might need anything, so I can get ahead of the curve.
Yeah.
So.
Well,
but mostly it's awesome. We have about a week turnaround. Is if I need something and I call them and say, I need it now, get it here. The guys at the plant are phenomenal, and they'll literally come in at 3 a.m. and start packaging and start getting things mixed up for me so I can get it out fast. So
that's good.
Kudos to them. They're great guys.
That's awesome. Well, good. Well, you've given us a lot to think about today, and I hope everybody goes and checks out these products, learns more about, what kind of things they could do, what kind of situations you might think about using them in. And for the small business owners, whether they're doing cows or farming or something else ag-related, what's something that you have learned along the way in your journey that you think other folks could benefit from?
I think it is, no matter what, if you don't know the answer, say, I don't know the answer. Be very open-minded. Be very, just honest, brutally honest. I would rather be brutally honest than try to say, oh, yeah, I have no clue what you're talking about. So, I think that's the thing, is just form great relationships with your people that come to you in the first, and you form it with them. They are going to say, she's honest, and she'll tell you how it is, or he will tell you how it is, and they're going to be your best asset. Word of mouth is everything, I think, in any business, not just the agriculture business. Like, your word is the thing, and do as much as you can, zero debt. So I know it is tough, and your labels may not be the prettiest, and you may not have a website. I started with literally a Facebook page. But you'll get there. Just keep punching on, and you're going to fail in some things. And then you're going, well, that was a bust. And then you're going to come out with the next thing that's like, oh my God, it worked, so yeah.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for being here today, Kaitlyn. And I hope folks go check out your TikTok, your website, and learn more about your products. If you've enjoyed spending time with us today, please take a moment to review the podcast on Apple Podcasts or join the conversation on social media. Do you have a topic you would like to discuss or know someone with a story to share? Apply to be a guest on the podcast at farmingonpurpose.com. You can follow the host of Farming on Purpose, Lexi, on your favorite social media platforms for more content by searching for Farming on Purpose. And remember, if you look around your table and aren't inspired by the people there, it's time to find a new seat.